Welcome back. We are on to the second part of our discussion. So, in the concluding remarks, Mr. Rakesh Naik was mentioning about the supply chain and why this particular kind of a supply gap demand was actually healthy because India is a healthy economy. So, there is a pent up demand that needs to be met with. So, Mr. Rakesh, please continue.
Yeah, the supply chain. I think the supply chain choke that we are feeling is mostly for the export oriented economies. India, as such, I think, is not yet feeling it. I mean, we are feeling it in the sense that certain components which may be needed to finish the product, you might not be getting them like chips, the hardware devices and such. But I think globally, if you look at the supply chain glut, it mostly is because the factories have stopped. These factories, they work by a production plan, and over the last one and a half year, the production was shut down, workforce was cut. The factories try to save cost. Now that has actually impacted over almost 3 quarters. Now to get back your production lines to the levels which was much before, and also add to the festival sales and global demand, is not an easy thing. It takes time. So, when you have to ramp up production so fast, hire the workforce, get the trucks online, get the containers, move all the ships around, it takes time. And, global supply chain has never been challenged at the level at which we are seeing. So that's probably also, adding to the pressure. And of course, there'll always be vested interest in economies, and these shipping lines are majorly controlled by 5 to 10 large operators. So they will also create a lot of headaches, and add to the glut. But I think all in all, it's a good indicator. It's a good problem to have. If I am an investor, I would be very happy because I see demand is there. I see that there are problems. I might come in and solve those problems in various types. But I think it's a good thing to have. It will ease out in a couple of months. But certain things like the festival demand and all that, they will add to the issues. Now, one important thing I would like to say is, economies like India may not feel the effect of the supply chain choke hugely. It does affect. But economies like US and China will, because if you want to buy a needle in America, you have to actually ship it from China. So that is where the problem is. Even the smallest of the things, they actually outsource it, outsource manufacturing, and then it's a remote manufacturing. So they feel the pressure. Economies like India, I think we are a little better off. And pandemic has really taught us to be a little more atmanirbhar in certain areas. So I think we'll survive, we'll see through. Maybe I would as an investor would like to see us actually adding a little more value into how we can tap into this disruption. There is a glut, there is a demand, there is a supply issue. How will India scale up to this is something interesting, and we'll have to see what the government does in helping there.
I have a point here. I have one question to both of you. The point is that like Mr. Kalin mentioned, certain areas where there are disruptions in semiconductors, chips, and those critical components that are needed in these days, the connected devices from
Hmm.
automobiles to anything. Okay. Um, is India actually looking at starting to enter the manufacturing of these devices? And is the government of India in any way incentivizing the manufacturing of this? Maybe through FDI who wants to invest rather than domestic manufacturing doing the investment. Maybe we can have a export zone which are already there. Why not get them here and then incentivize them to do that? We have the PLI scheme also in place. I suppose there's some element of thought process might be going on, if not actually implemented on ground. What is your views?
Shall I take,
Sir,
or
I
is
would
it Kalin?
I would like to add something to this. Sir, see, we are trying to create the ecosystem or the atmosphere where manufacturing can be conceived, right? We had been industrial country for some time, then we actually saw becoming a service industry for some time, and now we are too much reliant on our services, right? Instead of
Yes.
manufacturing. And it is not that we are not manufacturing. We are manufacturing at large scale. We have Tata, we have Reliance, we have other smaller organizations, like even toy manufacturers are facing the heat because of the same reason. And that is not because of the semiconductors or other things.
Yes.
If you have to understand this, you have to understand it from few perspectives. One,
Uh-huh.
it is not only about the manufacturing, it is about the raw material as well. If you see any of these products, if we talk about semiconductor devices, the raw material doesn't come from China or East Asian countries or India. These are imported from Australia, Canada, even some parts. I don't know whether you guys know it or not. Afghanistan war was never about getting the supremacy over the terrorism, because it has more to it than oil
Yes.
or anything.
Absolutely.
It has because Afghanistan is sitting on mines and tons of lithium, and that is where the interest was there, right? And with
Yeah.
Afghanistan under bad hands right now, there will be embargo, there will be sanctions, so that will also disrupt. So
Oh,
it is
yes.
also about, we have to understand that not about only about the manufacturing, but also about the raw products and raw materials. Even if we want to set up shop, we want to project ourselves as a manufacturing hub, we actually have to have a proper manufacturers and proper programs in place with those governments and start getting the raw material as well. Ease of getting raw material is what will allow, not about taxation or so, it is also about ease of getting the raw material. And that is where this supply chain comes in picture, like I've been mentioning, and our relation with those government also. And if you see all these protests, why they are happening? Because somehow our own people also want India to actually lose some brownie points, and these other countries, like these supplier countries, to think bad about India. So somehow they want to disrupt the overall economy. Our fundamentals are strong, everything is strong, we are in good in services, but at the same point of time, we actually have to show the strong leadership. We have shown it, we have climbed few ladders, few steps in the ladder when we say that ease of doing business. They have the states like UP, which has shown massive FDI, which have got the massive FDI in last couple of years. So it is not only about one or two states. We actually have to come up with a plan for every state in India to mitigate these kind of things. We actually have to create manufacturing hubs of different kind depending upon the raw material. We actually have to figure out the alternate for these raw materials as well.
Yes.
See,
Yes.
these raw materials will finish up one day or the other. At that time also they will disrupt the overall process, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
have to focus on research as well.
Hmm.
Research for you getting the alternate out. Research for from the economic point of view, what can be the best for particular state. How the supply chain will work, how the logistics will work, because everything will come to one point: people, government, and their interest, right? So with that, I will give it to Rakesh sir, because he has more insight to these kind of things.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Kalinji. See, I think I actually love answering this question of why India can't manufacture chips. Like Kalin said, we can manufacture, we have manufactured, we have also manufactured chips. I'll tell you what makes manufacturing chips of global level different. See, the minimum investment you need for chip manufacturing, which is mostly called, there are two or three components to manufacturing chips. The design, in which India is a world leader. Many may feel surprised. There is the design of the chips. The Pentium chip was invented by an Indian or an Indian origin person. So design of chips, we are the leaders. We have huge capabilities and competencies there. We can scale up to any level. The requirement of a foundry, which is where the actual chip is made, is hugely difficult. Now, what does it require? It requires huge amounts of land, which is a major problem in the country. You require large amounts of water, which is again a major problem in the country. You require conditioned power. When I say conditioned power, not even a degree of volt, I mean, not even 1 volt of change of power, continuous power. You require a lot of workforce which is trained. You require a dust-free environment. You require large swaths of, offices which are just coming up in the country. And an investment of this size of a manufacturing concern will cost nothing less than 10 to 20 billion dollars. $20 billion is not something government of India has the interest, nor it's not the competency, nor it has the focus, because our focus is right now something else. Now, if you look at how the world has progressed, China has been, the cultivated partner by United States and all that to be able to do this kind of things in the last, 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. It was not Japan; it was actually China. And from China, it moved a little to, the southeastern, South Asian countries. It's not that India cannot do it; India can easily do it. What do we have? We have a lot of governance issues. We have a lot of, the democracy. It is this place where I don't like democracy. It is this place where I don't like democracy. Had India been an autocratic rule, we would have had many, many, many manufacturing chip manufacturing companies in India. So yes, the government of India has made some effort. To be very honest, I don't think the earlier governments or dispensation had any interest. They made some effort. It failed miserably. In the last few years, they have put the policy in place. Basically, the flaw is because the policy is not in place. Once the policy is made, the connecting it to the regulation sectors and all that is very easy. And also the starter fund. I think government of India is now giving $2 billion or so as some starter fund or something. They are saying, and also, very important. We always hear this question: why can't Tata set up? Why can't Infosys set up? The reason is there needs to be a supply chain committed. If you take the world chip manufacturers, they have a committed supply chain. That supply chain has to break. So, the supply chain breaking is actually a blessing in disguise for us. This breaking in supply chain is majorly because electronics are being affected. Now, because these electronics are being affected, they're looking at options. The world has realized that there has to be alternate ways to get these chips done. All in one basket is a big problem. So I think,
Yes.
what, that is what is helping us. And I think, in the next 5 to 10 years, you might see India making a lot of chips. But we do make chips. It's not that we don't make chips. We don't make chips which goes into huge supercomputers, computers, and all those kind of things.
Okay, okay. I have one related question. At least two data points that I studied. It says that while the FDI into India has been increasing to record levels, yet at the same time, the contribution of FDI getting converted into capital formation is rather low. It is actually the domestic saving that is contributing into capital formation. I see. I see a bit of anachronism, so to say. I may not be using the right word, but then I'm a bit surprised that this kind of thing is happening. While at least I was thinking that a large part of the FDI could be actually forming capital.
Mhm.
That's a bit of a news to me, very honestly. And
I haven't read that, Natarajanji, on where that data is coming from, but
uh-huh,
I think of all the economies that you see in the world, we are mostly the positive
mm-hmm,
economy, and the demand is existing. The FDI, as an if you ask me as an investor, if you ask me as an investor at a
uh-huh.
global level, where do I put my money? I would put my money in areas which are where I would be confident enough that I would exit. It's certainly not Pakistan. It's certainly not Afghanistan.
All right.
Okay, it is certainly not America also nowadays. Can you believe this? It is certainly not America because there is too much of chaos. There's governance issues. America is like a third world country now. So if you look at, and it's certainly not Europe because Europe has all migration issues. I mean, if of all the economies, if you see only 2 or 3 economies are probably very promising, China, India, and mostly the Asian
Right.
economies.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course, the Middle Eastern oil economies, which are always, tightly driven because of oil. Now, I will look at certain factors like this to gauge the economy. The demand for crude is all-time high.
Right.
The demand for electronics, demand for consumer goods is all-time high. People are buying cars. People want to buy cars. There is they, I am into certain ventures which supply very high-end consulting people to various companies. There is a severe shortage of workforce. Every global company wants 25 to 500 people to be hired now. So these are all the parameters, and then they're ready to pay huge salaries. These are all the parameters, where which indicates that there is a lot of money flowing. Probably the pandemic has upset the various parameters, the usual traditional parameters with which we measure the economies. and the state of the economies. But I would say one thing: governance. I mean, we should start measuring economies and how they handle, these kind of vagaries of nature by the stability of the governance, by the quality of the governance, by the effectiveness of the policy making, and by the reach at which it is, at the speed at which it is able to reach the last mile. I think these factors, if you look at, we are talking of something which is very global in nature for a country of India's size, which clearly indicates that this is unprecedented. No one knows how to measure, and I have stopped believing these economists because they are all guessing.
I have a question, Rakesh ji. It is again a corollary to what you have been telling. I think in one of the conversation you mentioned that GDP as it stands today is not a very good measure of an economy at all. Okay, rather the surrounding factors. GDP is an indicator. That's about it, but it is not the everything.
Correct.
The I think one of the critical elements, in addition to what you have been saying, is the element of enforcement of law at on a large scale at a commercial level. Okay, uh, in some ways it has started, but not to the level that it should come. I believe. What would
Hmm.
you? How would you view that? The law.
I think I'm very positive and gung ho that the governance, I'm calling that as governance, the ability of the lawmakers to be able to make laws, implement them, and enforce them effectively. I think on that score, India scores high. But are all the laws being able to be enforced? No, because we have got global parameters and interests which are working against us. Just imagine this. Just imagine this. America became superpower for 50 years because it could move only 100 million people out of poverty. Now
Hmm.
imagine where India will go. It has got 700 to 800 million to move. What kind of force we will be? People don't want that. Certain vested interests don't want that. So when you have forces working against you, I think that is where the potential of India is. And I think in the next 10 years we are disconnecting with the oil, crude oil. We are getting self-sufficient in many areas. Electric vehicles are coming in, though they may not be green. I hate this green factor. All green is all nonsense. It may not be green, but it is making us move away from the oil economies, these sheikhs which are killing us. The 80% of your forex is allowed to be used for your own purposes. Imagine the kind of development that's happening across the places. And just look around your window. You see development happening. Is that bad economy? People are buying apartments. People are buying super rich apartments. People are buying cars. Everyone I know is buying. They're not saving despite the pandemic. So I think the pandemic set a sense of fear, but then we have seen the worst fear now. So probably the next 25 to 30 years for India will be amazing. You are not talking to an India which will remain a developing country anymore. You're talking to an India which wants to unshackle all of this nonsense and probably set its own terms. And
Exactly.
the and the and the inertia to that are we Indians.
Right.
Kalinji, your views.
So, yes, like Rakesh sir has summed it up really well, that we are the catalyst, right? I wouldn't call it inertia, I would call it catalyst to this change, right? And we have been playing the role of catalyst for some time now, if we see the people of India. Now, if we see, yes, the way, there are few things, like about GDP, if we talk about, like on what basis we are calculating GDP and we are calculating our growth is different with what other countries are doing. If we see East Asian economies, right? East Asian economies, most of them are intra-based economies. They create a cities, they create a township, and that is on a basis of urbanization. And there are ghost towns lying over there where no people to live in, because they don't have anything else over there. They are just town with a housing, nothing else. There is no jobs over there. People don't want to go there and live. There is not even a power and water supply to those towns. So if you see, we are good economy because of our fundamentals, like what we have said. And governance and laws also make some should make actually covered under this overall economy part now. We cannot keep everything immune and separate from each other. Now, if a person like Rakesh sir want to invest, right? Today, will he invest in Gurgaon or in Delhi? With the chaos he is looking at over there, he will think twice. He will rather invest in Bangalore. Because it is less chaotic, it is relatively peaceful, right? So this is what other economies, other countries of the world also look at. We actually have to be predictable. We actually have to be less chaotic. Like what we have seen in last 2 years is a chaotic India, right? And that is what they want to project, so that people stop living in India. What they were doing, they were investing in India, right? This is another parameter if we see overall. So law and order should be a part of our economy growth. Should be one of the parameters. Should be parameters associated with it. How well we did in governance. Then it is not only about the FDI which came in. How many opportunities we lost. That should be one of the parameters as well. But we don't talk about the opportunity loss because we don't want to learn our lessons, right? And every opportunity loss is not usually showcased as a failure of the government, right? And
Yeah.
government don't want to put it in front of you as in a platter. Okay, come and do the protest on this as well, right? So government actually have to set certain innovation. They actually have to create new parameters which actually relate to the emotion of the business, work of the businesses, and overall atmosphere of a conducive business environment. So we actually have to work on those areas as well. So that's my
Okay.
take on this.
Okay. So, if I were to look at today's discussion, while uh, while there are certain fears, there are certain genuine fears or concerns, rather, about the upcoming slump in the supply chain, the impact of the supply chain. Because of it, India's unique positioning, India is well placed to receive the shock very well, to absorb the shock very well, and to withstand it, and then take it forward, and maybe grow out of this entire thing, grow out of the entire exercise. All right, and so the last question, the last views that I would like to have from each of you is about where do you think India stands to achieve the $5 trillion economy as per the different. Are we on target to achieve it, or we might be slightly be delayed?
Okay. Shall I?
Yeah, please.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the 5 trillion is just a number. We are roughly about 3.3, 3.4. COVID actually created a little mess. So
Yes.
I wouldn't measure it as 5 trillion economy, but I would say we have all the wherewithals to be more than that. One, there are only two things I would like, or think which is impeding that. One is educated policymakers. We need more MPs who are more aware, who can frame laws, who can fight for the laws to be implemented. We don't have currently. Second, inducement for the entrepreneurs, the SMEs and the MSMEs. They need more capital. They don't have. The government of India promises 50,000 crores, 75,000 crores, but it's not coming. There's a lot of pain. The cost to the capital in the country is one of the highest in the world. There are smart entrepreneurs wanting to bring out ideas, but they don't have seed capital. They don't have series capital. So I think two things, if you put in, India can reach even $25 trillion economy. Why just five?
Oh yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Kalinji.
Why to limit ourselves to 5? Like I completely agree with Rakesh sir over here. Why to limit ourselves to 5? Why not to 25? Why not 50? And why we are so much crazed about the numbers? Right. Numbers are just numbers. If we have the potential, we can grow, and we have everything available. We are unique positioning, our climate. These are the few factors like everything is perfect in this country. We have resources, we have people, we have manpower, and we have will to do it. Another point, which we have seen in last at the turn of this millennium and this century, we have seen that people want to achieve something. They want to do right. The only thing is now when we actually want to do it, there has to be ease of when we are actually climbing the ladder of ease of doing business. We actually have to create a ladder as well for people to actually think about doing business. Atmanirbharta, that word, Atmanirbhar, we will become only when we give them a conducive environment.
Hmm.
Because our system is still old, right? We might create the plans, we might create a lot of policies. Implementation and execution of those policies, what might is not actually bringing out the results, right? So we actually have to work on implementation and execution as well, not just the policy making.
Yes. So thank you so much, Rakesh ji and Kalin ji, for sparing your time. I think it was a wonderful discussion, throwing lights on multiple aspects of the economic growth that are impacting the economy. Yes, on the as a last point, yes, why to bother about one number? But I think that number was provided just to make us think as to why can't we do this, so that it becomes a stepping platform for a bigger number. That I think
Exactly.
is the key. So with that, I would like to say thank you so much. Do like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much. Good evening. Shubhratri.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, and good evening.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.